In the face of anxiety, it can be very hard to deal with. When we talk about it in zombies, it's a good struggle. Almost like you're playing a horror game and you have adrenaline pumping through your veins at the highest moments. You could say this is what defines all the fun in the entire mode. And you could say that over time, we started seeing less and less of it, making it a not so fascinating time. So what is this anxiety? What does it do to us in a typical match? And how does it impact the game? Okay, let's set the scene. You're by yourself, playing alone in the dead of night. And you're also on World at War, which already has a haunting menu. You set your eyes on the map, Der Riese. And at this moment, you had a hint of bravery coursing through you. From the very beginning, you're put to the test. If you're a newer player, or just a noob, these first few rounds may be fine for you. But you'll quickly start to face more zombies that also get tougher and faster with low ammo.
Shit! Running low on ammo!
At this point, you either cave in and stop here while trying to convince yourself you're not scared.
Dude, I'm not scared.
Or you still convince yourself you're not scared, but instead of leaving, you think of your opportunities. In this case, you have two doors that once opened have even more choices. Or you have two weapons that you could invest in if you trust your own capabilities of surviving. But how this involves anxiety is that these are quick decisions in moments where your control over the zombies is starting to slip away, which means moments of weakness come and you can quickly get overwhelmed by a relentless horde. To the ordinary zombies player, this typically isn't their demise. They make it further by opening doors and fortifying themselves with stronger weapons. But this is still a time before getting access to your comfortable juggernaut. You see, in the games of World at War, all the way to Black Ops 2, you could only afford 2 very quick hits before experiencing mental pain of losing all your progress. So you can't just mess around because any small mistake could lead you to a corner with no way out. Because of this, we have this growing anxiety that can do a lot of the talking for you. You won't be as brave to make the hard decisions necessary. This feeling is undeserved in later games like Black Ops 3 where things are much more graceful. That's because of these addicting things called cheat codes that can give you everything on round 1. It's basically as if I were to start entering console commands and started speedrunning. You could say it's a drug for zombie players. They get hooked on the idea of having all this power early on, and once they can't have their perkaholic anymore, they start tweaking.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it.
They cheat themselves and most likely end the game early due to boredom. And yes, while you're free to do and enjoy what you like, this takes away the satisfaction and adrenaline pumping moments of progression. But in our case of World at War Der Riese, what you do is deserved. While you were a sissy early on in your zombies career going down on round 4, eventually you would get the hang of handling your anxiety in this thing called surviving. You got a feel for when and what decisions you should make.
Don't mess with a Marine!
You were racking up enough points to move forward and progress to the next part of the game. This stage is what I will describe as the anxiety relief.
Wunderwaffe! Oh, how I missed you! Beautiful!
At some point, you have to conquer your fears and come out on top with control over an entire zombie horde. If you made good choices, then you will have an easier time getting closer to the end game. What these choices are doing is removing some of that heavy weight on your shoulders from having to be extra cautious in those pesky early rounds. Essentially, you're cashing in your hard work, and now you got power. Typically, a player's first choice will be investing in Juggernog or trying to get a decent weapon from the mystery box. But there's some risk involved in those decisions that could lead you to terrible situations. Let's say we have Timmy, who's going for Juggernog. He decided that he wanted to be safer and be able to tank 5 hits from the zombies. So he said forget about hitting the mystery box. This investment into Juggernog will cost him 2,500 points compared to the 950 it cost to spin the mystery box and possibly get a really good weapon.
A weapon worthy only of heroes!
The great thing about different maps is that Juggernog could be incredibly hard to obtain or stupid easy depending on the location they are in. In the case of Der Riese, it's in a pretty tough spot if you decide to go get it mid-round. Timmy could have his 2,500 points saved up, purchase Juggernog, and as he's drinking it, get absolutely clobbered. And if he's able to be revived, he will realize he has no Juggernog, no 2,500 points, and now almost nothing to stop the stronger zombies. Basically, he's screwed. Now let's introduce Jimmy, who's going to get the mystery box. He doesn't have to sit around saving as many points and could hit the box early. In his mind, he's thinking he could get the ray gun, maybe the Wunderwaffe, or just a decent enough gun to hold him over. And he gets Molotovs.
This is no weapon for a warrior.
Okay, well, he has enough for another go at the box, and yep, he got the Kar 98. Now both Timmy and Jimmy's decisions aren't looking so good. If they were some seasoned or lucky players, then they could easily deal with these situations. But they are some of your average Joes, and this choice now may decide the fate of all their early hard work, which could be the game over screen. But certainly, these are very specific situations. Both Timmy and Jimmy could make better decisions to get what they want. Timmy could have played it safer waiting for the end round to get Jug. And Jimmy could have recognized his gambling addiction and instead invested in a wall weapon before spinning the box. Most importantly, these good decisions are leading to power over your environment. You now may not be so afraid to run around, or you're confident in holding your ground without the fear of running out of ammo anytime soon. This is where the tide of the match starts to turn, and you now have started conquering your anxiety and mowing through zombies like someone who was deeply hurt by them. But again, in a world such as Black Ops 3, where a lot of this anxiety is removed or dumbed down, there's no satisfaction from accomplishment. You don't conquer anything because there wasn't much to conquer from the start. You didn't go through the struggles that poor Timmy and Jimmy had to go through. And while they were learning from their mistakes and earning their progress, you were towering over every zombie since round 1. I put a lot of negative attention on this game with how they handled anxiety, and I must state that this game is still incredibly fun and was the peak for a lot of players. But recognizing that the anxiety we've been talking about just isn't there as much as it should. It feels way easier of a game, and that creates a problem when you jump from title to title. There are some brief moments in each map where you can activate hidden music Easter eggs. Rather than being some boring background music, it's the opposite, where it's intended to pump you up. These have always been special, but it's another tool for the player to help fight against the anxious moments. People like Timmy and Jimmy would have great relief, and were able to grab a hold of their senses anytime a kick-ass song would come on. All of a sudden, your performance is motivated by the sheer presence of music. I might be overanalyzing this, but to the fans who have played most of the games, was the music Easter egg a better reward in the older titles? Anxiety is what gets us on the edge of our seats, scared of being chased by a horrifying, screaming monster. But instead of being on the constant run, you have the opportunity to rise up and conquer the fear that those screaming zombies put you in. It's a challenge, and at times it may even be more difficult to overcome. But that was the early soul of the game. Give the player obstacles that challenge their own fears, with the opportunity to overcome it and take over the game. This was the original core. When the direction went into an easier experience, is when that core started to become a classic to only the first few games.